Hi, I'm Allison Meyer, and these are my friends Alexis Cruz
Oh no!
and Baily Mount. And this is Bad Fanfiction Fridays, where we aim to bring you the good, the bad, and the ugly of fanfiction. And today we will be talking about 3 iconic fanfics. But first, what are fanfics?
I don't have it written down what fanfiction
I mean,
are.
what do you guys, when someone asks you what is a fanfic, what do you say?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of in the name. It's fiction that was written by the fans of a particular... Louder? I'm sorry, I didn't know what you were saying.
It's fine.
What?
We can do this again. I just need to up the gain a little bit. There we go. Now it's better.
Well, I think it's kind of in the name. It's fiction that was written by the fans of a particular television show, video game, anime, sometimes Disney film. The list goes on.
What about you, Alexis?
I mean, for me, it like, I didn't know what fanfictions were when I first read them anyways. Like, I just knew it was a thing. It was just something that was written online, and it was in a general universe of something that has already been created. So, like, what Baily was saying, shows, books, movies. I know there's even fanfics for musicals now or something like that. It's like a wide variety of fictionist things that already have a universe, but fans took it as their own and tried making something out of it.
All right, and today Baily has some history about fanfics for us.
Some fun facts?
Some fun facts. Go for it, Baily.
So, fanfiction has, historically at least, been around for as long as the 1960s, even as early as 1963, when the first fanfiction called The Ring of Shoshurn was published by a woman called Jennifer Goodrich. It was privately circulated at first, and then it was actually made into a book. It's a book. It's 40 pages, and this is single-sided and single-spaced. Not double-spaced, single-spaced. And the pairing is Captain Kirk and Spock from Star Trek. So, Star Trek created fanfiction.
That's wonderful.
I mean,
Boldly go where no man has ever gone before.
Oh, God.
go on.
Go beyond.
Because it was a slash fic, right?
Okay, so what's a slash fic?
Oh, what is a slash fic? So a slash fic is usually when we call it more often a ship, where 2 people are paired together for possible relationship in a fic, which is short for fanfiction, by the way, just in case you didn't know. But yeah, so did I cover that?
Slash ones are usually just the homosexual pairings.
Yeah,
Like, there's femme
general.
slash and then it's
Oh,
slash.
yeah. So
Like there's regular ships and then you have your slash pairings.
then you got your slash
Which,
pairings.
I don't know why they're called slash pairings, but
It's beyond me. It's
Because
deep
they
in the
can't,
histories.
like, cross, like, a plus sign because that's straight. So they have to be slashed in the side because they're the same gender or sexual.
They are parallel.
They're parallel lines.
but no.
Don't cross the stream.
I'm giving it all she's got, Captain.
Oh, God.
But no, that was the first one, and then by 1967, fanzines, fan magazines with fanfiction in them started showing up, and the first known recorded one was called Spockanalia.
Ooh.
And not only did it include fanfiction, but it included fan art.
Ooh.
And then
Like
it just...
explicit fan
No,
art?
not yet, no.
No, but like holding hands through a field
they-
of flowers.
Or even just looking at each other meaningfully.
Oh,
Like enough to disclose that something else was definitely going on.
I love it.
But
Scandalous.
it took forever for it to get to where it is today, because back then it was basically just, okay, let's go into this basement and read this sick Star Trek fan fiction.
Heck yes.
Like that. It wasn't something that people like to talk about. They were kind of ashamed of it, like when people used to think going to conventions was really nerdy.
I mean, it's still kind of, not necessarily something that most people go around talking about unless it's within, like, the privacy of, like, 4 walls and they know the other person's okay with that stuff. Otherwise, I wouldn't talk to other people about fan fiction.
Didn't one of you say the other day you walked by and someone was reading a fan fiction out loud in the USU?
No.
Or something?
No.
Someone did.
Oh!
You. I think it
It
was
was
you.
me. I think it was It was like last semester or something. I remember this. I remember telling you this. It was like I walked by the game room and someone was reading a fanfiction out loud. And I remember it being a fanfiction specifically because all of a sudden they stopped reading, they started laughing, and then they started talking about characters. And I was just like, what? And like I knew it wasn't D&D because I didn't see any dice or anything. Like I'm pretty sure it was a fanfiction.
But see, there you go. You couldn't do that in like the 60s.
This is true.
It was just people gathering in secret dark corners of conventions or basements and just passing this stuff around.
True. So how did you guys get into fanfics? Because I know how I got into fanfics, and that's like kind of a roundabout story, but it was basically my friend sent me basically a fan comic of some anime that we both watched, and it shipped the two main characters, and I was like, what is this? Like, I've never seen this before. What is happening? And then it was all downhill from there. It was like, ooh, look, they write stuff about Naruto. Oh my gosh, and Sasuke? What is this?
True gay ship.
The Renaissance of Spock and Kirk.
Oh, Lord. But yeah, and I think that was like my 8th grade years when I came into fanfiction. What was it for you guys?
Oh god, this sounds terrible. I started way earlier than 8th grade.
Oh no.
It was like, this was the time when Adult Swim, like on Cartoon Network, was airing Inuyasha, and Inuyasha was still kind of like a new thing on Adult Swim. I don't know what season it was in, but I remember it was still like new episodes every Saturday or whatever. And I remember I was in the 4th grade, and like little weeb ass me, so weeb is short for weeaboo, and that's a whole other topic. But I wanted to look up Inuyasha backgrounds, wallpapers for our computer, so for my account on the computer. So I did, and then I also found something else on Google, and it was on Quizilla.com. I think it's a different name now since it's owned by Nickelodeon, but Quizilla was like a site where it was a bunch of quizzes, polls, and sometimes there were stories, and that's how I found Inuyasha fanfics. And from there, it just like spiraled down until I finally upgraded to fanfiction.net. And then, yeah, like I started young. Long story short, TLDR, I started young because I was a weeb.
Well, what pairing was it? Was it Inuyasha and Kagome, or was it like some other weird pairing?
It would either be Inuyasha Kagome, or it was Inuyasha and like an original character.
Oh no!
But it wouldn't even be like a well-developed original character. At first, it was just a self-insert, and it was, thinking back on it, it was terrible. And then that's when I learned a plethora of terms.
So to explain what a self-insert is.
So a self-insert, it's basically either the creator of the fic, either they let you decide what the character looks like, and they'll put in notes saying like, oh, eye color, hair color here, blah, 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 your name here. Or it could be the creator themselves putting whatever they think is original character based off their personality and their looks, and they'll put it within the story. And usually they'll leave like, oh, author's note, this is my blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yeah. And another note, so fanfictions aren't necessarily just limited to like main characters. Sometimes people will ship random characters together just because, and from my knowledge, I know like that's called like rare pairs, or like I don't know if there's anything else to call it.
Or if they're completely inconceivable.
Crack ships.
Yeah, crack ships.
Crack ships, yeah. So sometimes fanfic can get kind of crazy. What about you, Baily? Where are your dark origins?
About 6th grade, I think. I think
a dark time for everyone.
Yeah, really bad, because that was when I started getting into anime. I'd like to add that I think it all goes back to anime, because fanfiction started becoming mainstream once people started writing not only anime fanfictions, but Harry Potter fanfictions.
Yeah.
Like when the books started coming out in the late 90s and early 2000s, that's when it really took off. And I was watching Ouran High School Host Club with one of my friends, and we just thought, oh, okay, there's one girl on this show and there's so many different guys, who do you ship her with? And we started talking about the different hosts we shipped her with, and I shipped her with a host that no one really thought of. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to know if other people felt the same way as I did. So I went to Google, God help me, and it said, oh, here's fanfiction.net. And I said, okay, what does this mean? And I got on, and that was it. That was it. Oh, boy.
It was just...
Yeah, and then I just never really grew out of it, and then, you know, I started writing my own, but that's another subject for another day.
Oh, yes, it is. So, let's get into the fanfics that we picked for today. We picked 3 fanfics. The first being a fanfic called Twist and Shout. And who is that by? Does anyone...
The author? Let me see.
Yeah.
The author was...
I think I have it. Who is it?
It's on Archive of Our Own now.
Yeah.
For the record, Archive of Our Own is another place where people can post fan fiction.
It's apparently by 2 different authors. It said Gabriel and Stand By Me. So it's a work with 2 different authors.
Interesting.
Which I previously didn't know. I thought it was just one person.
Okay. So why did we pick this one? Because I had not read this one before you guys brought it up. So why is it iconic?
So I suggested this fanfiction for today because I knew it was very iconic back in 2010-ish when there was a large following for Supernatural in a fandom known as Super Hulock. So Super Hulock is the combined fandom of Supernatural, Sherlock, the BBC show, and
Doctor Who.
And Doctor Who.
And what are fandoms?
So fandoms are basically a fan club, I guess.
Basically.
To say of those shows, categories, whatever. So I was never a part of the Super Hulock, and I knew two of my closest friends at the time were really into it, and I was interested in getting into it, but I never actually took the time except for Supernatural. And then when they found out I got into Supernatural, that's when they pointed me in the direction of a fanfiction called Twist and Shout. And before it was on Archive of Our Own, it used to be on fanfiction.net. And I remember it being like one of the top reviewed, the most talked about fanfictions for the Supernatural fandom. And everyone would say, oh yeah, it's really sad, it's super emotional, oh my gosh. Also, there's a lot of like explicit scenes, but once you get past that, it's really like, it's just a very emotional ride. So that's why I wanted to talk about this iconic fanfiction.
And so it's based off of the TV show Supernatural, which is about...
Do you want me to take that one? Because
yeah, go for it,
you watched it more than I did.
The Super Hulock thing she was mentioning, unfortunately, when it was at the height of its power, I was a very avid member of it.
Okay.
So I watched all 3 of those shows.
So tell us about Supernatural then.
Supernatural follows the 2 Winchester brothers, Sam and Dean, as they try to save the world from the various forces of evil, and then at some points the actual apocalypse and the devil himself.
Okay.
There's angels and demons, vampires, wendigos, werewolves, all that stuff. And then just 2 brothers trying to make it through together because they only have each other.
And so Twist and Shout ships together the characters Dean Winchester and the angel Castiel. Can you explain how that kind of came about?
I mean, like, that's when I found out about the ship, and I was just like, oh yeah, Dean and Cass, okay. And that was, what, season 8?
Cass showed up at the beginning of season 4 after Dean came back from hell. And Dean had no idea why he was back from hell, and it was really confusing. So he came back and he had this giant red handprint on his shoulder, like someone had grabbed him super hard, and he had no idea what was going on. And Cass tried to contact him about 3 or 4 times throughout the episode, and then he just showed up. And you saw his wings and like this bolt of lightning, but they weren't actual wings, and he goes, who the hell are you? And Cass goes, I'm Castiel, an angel of the Lord, and I gripped you tight and raised you from perdition. So he saved Dean from actual hell, and then as the series went on, there were just moments between them that seemed to suggest something was going on.
Okay.
And it still is like that from what I have seen from gift sets. I can't watch the show anymore. It's too bad.
Okay, so let's talk about Twist and Shout. What do we like about Twist and Shout? Is from because I read the first chapter and I was not. I'm going to say it was well written to an extent. There were some things that I took issue with, but other than that, it seemed pretty good. But what do you guys?
Should we read the summary off so people know what
go
we're
for
expecting?
it.
Do you want to do it in your podcast voice?
My podcast voice. Here we
No,
go.
the summary is gold.
What begins as a transforming love between Dean Winchester and Castiel Novak in the summer of 1965 quickly derails into something far more tumultuous when Dean is drafted into the Vietnam War. Though the two both voice their relationship is one, where saying goodbye is never a real truth, their story becomes fraught with the tragedy of circumstance. In an era where homosexuality was especially vulnerable, Twist and Shout is the story of the love transcending time, returning over and over in its many forms, as faithful as the sea.
So it's an AU.
So it's an AU, which to the uninformed listener means an alternate universe. So basically what the author does is they take these characters and basically their personalities and put them into a completely different universe. So it can be like a different time, or it can literally be anything.
Or even you can do crossover fics, like Hogwarts AUs are very popular.
That's
That's
something for another day, man.
But yeah, AUs, it's very much you take the characters and the personality and you put it in a completely different setting, whatever you want, but it's still the same characters that the fans know and love.
So, okay, so Baily, I believe you've read the entire thing. Did you like it?
To be fair, I read the entire thing, I think, when I was about 15 or 16.
Okay.
I think. So.
Did you like it then?
Oh, yeah, I loved it. I cried. Like a baby. And I couldn't even do it in the privacy of my own room because I decided to read it while I was on vacation at the beach with my entire family.
That is the worst idea ever.
Because I did. Okay, let's start with, it says it has explicit content. And I was like, okay, whatever.
What does that mean?
Well,
Sexy scenes.
there's sexy scenes, and it says
no.
archive warnings, graphic depictions of violence, and major character death. So I can't be blamed for what I told you to earlier, because it says major character death.
I didn't think it would be him though. Like I don't know if we should spoil it if people haven't read it.
So, alright. If you haven't already figured out, there are going to be major spoilers for these fanfics. So, if you don't want to know what happens in these fanfics, turn off this podcast right now.
And then come back when you read them.
Yes. But, so tell us what happens. Give us the rundown of what happens in this fanfic, Baily.
Dean's one of those,
He's a bad boy.
he's one of those leather daddies. He's got
Oh, God!
Yeah, he's like the bad boy. Literally in the first chapter, he came strolling in on a motorbike, crashing a fraternity party or sorority party, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, who's that?"
And isn't he openly, unapologetically gay?
Yeah,
Yeah, everyone knows he's gay.
but like, except Cass apparently he didn't know until Dean had to chase him down, and that's a whole other like
And
wild.
because like I said, I did read the first chapter. He was like, gonna take you to a diner and we're gonna get smoothies or milkshakes or whatever you do in the 1960s
We're gonna
or
get
whatever.
milkshakes, and then he's just like, "Oh, Cass, are you queer?" Like super out loud in the '60s diner,
Yeah.
and Cass is just like, "Yo, what? Like you can't say that out loud."
And also, no, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Cass is the really bookish, nerdy, quiet
Studious
guy. Yeah,
boy.
he's in the closet. He's so far in the closet, which, of course, obviously, given the time period that this is set in. So they meet, they fall in love. They fall in love super hard.
They fall in love within like 2-3 hours.
No. They fall in love the moment they see each other because Cass looks at Dean and he's like, I don't know what I'm feeling right now,
but it is something I have never felt before in my life. Like, what is happening? And then, like, he gets on the back of Dean's motorcycle, and he's like, what's happening? Oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on, but, like, I'm feeling things.
And if you get on the back of a guy's motorcycle, everyone knows you're basically married to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, literally, the second chapter begins with, we fell in love so quickly, or something like that.
Blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's
Like-
summer now.
Oh, you know what? No, I'm gonna read exactly what happens in the second chapter, like the first
Okay,
sentence.
so it starts off as a whirlwind romance, but then it turns into something really real. At least I thought.
You know what? No.
I could be wrong.
Time out. Time out. Second chapter literally begins with, it was all so painless falling in love with Dean.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of the second chapter.
And you said it was painless?
It was all so painless. So painless.
This is so painless
This is
1960
me
gay
trying
romance.
to this is me trying to do my homework, trying to be the good girl, trying to read the whole fan fiction for this podcast, but I really could not get through it. Because it's like, if I don't think about it critically, like analyzing it or whatever, I could see why it's a good story. Like, honestly, it's
For the most part, it's really well written.
it's really well written. And
But the pace is so slow.
the pace is slow. I wish
Apparently
there
not
was...
if they fall in love instantly.
In the second chapter, that takes like 14 pages to get to.
Yeah, it says they fall in love, but yeah, you fall in love, but then it turns into this, like, I don't know how to describe it. It turns into this actually deep love. It goes from infatuation, and then it turns into something that's really real, which you guys would know if you had read the whole
Because
thing.
it takes forever to get through the first chapter, where it's literally just that one scene of them, like, seeing each other and being like, I don't know what I'm feeling. And then going to the diner and still being like, gay. We are gonna be gay together, I guess. Sure. And then Cass goes home and he's like, what?
Cass's landlord finds out and kicks him out of his apartment.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's when it starts getting bad.
Like, the only reason why I stopped was because I wish there was more development in their actual relationship, rather than just, like, slap in the face, they're together already. Like, I
Yeah.
appreciated the kind of time skip that they had in the second chapter, but I wish the time skip would have been utilized in a way like, oh yeah, they're together now. So I wish the first chapter was literally just their meeting and they were kind of like neutral, I guess, or trying to get to know each other, and then second chapter would be like, oh yeah, it's established, like, that's the relationship, rather than just like instant relationship where they're just like almost groping each other and like, oh my god, his shirt is showing his hip, scandalous. Like,
Which we're going to talk about that. That happens a lot.
That happens
when
a lot.
people write those
Another
kind of
thing
scenes.
that happens a lot, and this is like a beginner mistake, I feel like, in any bad fanfic actually, is that they make the more submissive character, such as Cass, they make them blush.
yeah, a lot.
So much. Like, every other sentence was Cass blushing, then he was blushing harder. Ooh,
he's
and then he
flushing.
was flushing, because that's a different word for
he's supposed to take
blushing.
on the feminine role. We have to talk about the problems that often happen in slash pairings.
Okay, then let's talk about that.
It's the whole classic case of who's pitching and who's catching.
I mean, yeah.
As terrible as that is, because most of the time slash pairings
adhere
aren't even
to-
written by gay men.
Yeah,
I mean-
it's usually women who write these fanfics, usually young girls,
To live out their
actually.
fantasies of the characters they think should be together.
Yeah.
So I think that's how it usually ends up, and here it's written, I think one of the authors is female and the other might be male, I'm not sure. But you can still see some of the elements of that kind of slash pairing in there, especially since, like you said, Cass is the more submissive one, and he's the one that, as the series goes on, he's more emotional, he cries more. At some point they break up, and I think it might be Cass that breaks up with Dean, and that's like the strongest... That's the only time he's ever, like, super strong about it. Most of the time, it's Dean being the strong one.
Okay.
Strongest in the sense where he was just like,
it
oh
gets
yeah,
bad.
when I came out, or when my dad found out that I was gay, I was gay, my dick sucked in an alleyway, and some drunk guy was like, yo, your son is sucking some dick? But Dean was just like, nah, it was really like I was getting my dick sucked. And I'm just like, okay. And, like, I told you this, but
It goes from 1 to 100 so quickly.
yeah, and I told Baily this, but, like, at first, because I watched a couple episodes of the show, I was like, oh, I can't really imagine Dean just, like, being in an alleyway and doing that kind of thing. But she convinced me otherwise. She's like, oh, no, I could see it.
Because it goes to that whole argument of the character, a danger in fanfics and AUs, is the character acting OOC, which here means out of character, when you're writing the character that you start living vicariously through them and start writing how you would react instead of how the character's personality would react to certain situations.
Yeah.
So she was going, oh no, Dean would never want to get his dick sucked in an alleyway. And I was going, listen, I've watched Supernatural all the way up into season 8, which was a horrible decision. And as it goes on, Dean alludes to the fact that he is probably into very kinky stuff.
Oh,
So
dear.
he totally seems like the type of character that would let that happen, but he wouldn't be the one doing it to someone else.
Yeah, that's why Dean was just like, yeah.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
But what about like Cass's character? Because I feel like the blushing, like super submissiveness of his character was pretty out of character.
Yeah,
for him.
that was. I mean, the seasons that I would watch, it was the ones of like Cass, because that was what was airing on TNT. But yeah, for me, he seemed really out of character because when Cass is introduced to the series, like, he's an angel. He doesn't really know how to act
Or emote.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to emote or act. He was just kind of like, oh, and he's really blunt, but not in a mean way. It's just because he doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, for me reading this fanfic, it was really hard for me to imagine these characters as, well, first of all, it was hard for me to imagine them as younger than how they look on TV.
Yeah. I literally Googled what their faces would look like if they were like in their 20s, and I was like, okay, this helps me visualize it better, but at the same time, it's just like, no.
Yeah.
And for me, it got to the point where I completely forgot within the first couple of chapters that this was supposed to be a fan fiction, and it just turned into a really good story for me. I forgot that these were characters from Supernatural. So I think that goes off what you're saying.
That is kind of the point of fan fiction, is to make you forget that these are from some other source of work. But at the same time, it's like you have to, in some respects, respect the source material.
Yeah. But I get what you mean. The whole out of character thing with Cass, I can totally see that. Because here, obviously, he's not an angel, because that wouldn't make any sense. So I think they were trying to figure out what Cass would do if he was a human. And back then, that source material wasn't available yet, because Cass was just an angel on the show, and he was just learning how to interact with people.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a shot in the dark, and they totally missed the mark here. But
it's unfortunate, but
things get bad. Dean gets drafted, going back to the summary, Dean gets drafted into the Vietnam War.
Yeah, that I knew.
Yeah.
So, like, the things I did know about the fanfiction before reading it, Dean gets drafted. He gets drafted into the Vietnam War, and then someone has AIDS and someone died. But I thought the person that would get the AIDS would be Dean, and he would die because that would seem like the obvious choice. But you proved me otherwise, and I was...
They pulled a Fault in Our Stars on us, guys.
Yeah.
jeez. I haven't read or see that movie, so...
I read the book. I cried.
So yeah, you revealed that, like, oh yeah, Cass got AIDS. And I'm just like, what?
So, okay.
Dean slept around!
Okay, so, right, so I had no idea who was going to be getting the AIDS or how they were going to be getting the AIDS. So please explain
It was
to
a
me.
raffle.
You get AIDS!
You get AIDS!
It's like the Hunger Games or like the draft card. If they call your birthday, you just automatically get struck down with AIDS.
Oh, God.
Terrible.
Wait, so what happens exactly? Like, at what point in the story do we find out that Cass is sick, and does Dean eventually get sick? Because clearly he must be HIV positive,
Nope,
and
Dean
he's
gets
not getting
survivor's guilt.
treatment.
Dean gets a nice heaping dose of survivor's guilt.
That's
because
all?
What happens is Dean sleeps around like an insane amount from what I remember. And Cass finds out, and Cass goes, no, that's it. I am not going to be with you anymore. And Dean goes, okay, fine. And they have a really volatile falling out. And then they just don't talk to each other for several years. And Cass ends up in San Francisco. And someone gets a hold of him. I think it might be Gabriel, who's Cass's brother in this, and he's his brother on the show because he's an archangel, whatever, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, Cass is dying. And Dean goes,
no.
what the fuck do you mean Cass is dying? I haven't heard from Cass in years. So he goes to the hospital, and of course, no one's there except Gabriel, because during that time,
Everyone was
Yeah.
scared that they were going to get AIDS
by
through...
being with them, or
Yeah.
some people's family members wanted nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
So the only people who had contact with them were the nurses.
Yeah.
So Dean shows up and Cass is pretty much already on his way out. He's maybe got a couple more days at most. So Dean starts reminding them of all the happy times they had together.
No.
There was this scene where they were on a beach together really early in the morning, and it was kind of winter, so no one else was there, so they could actually be together unapologetically in public as a couple. And they took pictures together with this stupid Polaroid camera. That really hurt me, okay? Because that was like a really nice moment, and the whole series is them talking about Elvis. Like, Cass really loves Elvis, and Dean's like, no, I'm a bad boy. I don't like that Elvis shit. And Cass plays Can't Help Falling in Love with You, and then Dean's like, I can dig Elvis. So,
Oh, God.
are you ready? Last chapter, I think. Cass is dying, so Dean pulls a Tom Collins from Rent and gets in the hospital bed with Cass.
Oh,
Puts his arms around him. And yes, he starts singing Can't Help Falling in Love with You.
no!
And right before the last line, Cass dies.
That's gotta kick you in the... Oh, my God. Kick
Yeah.
you right in the emotions. That's gotta hurt.
I cried so hard. And remember, I was on vacation. I was in this tiny little trailer, and it was
How
about
old were
8
you?
I was 16,
Oh, my
15 or
God.
16.
Poor 16-year-old Baily just sobbing her eyes out.
Very quietly, because it was 8 a.m. and everyone else was asleep, so I just turned over into my pillow and started softly sobbing. And you can't talk to your parents about this. You can't be like, oh yeah, this fictional AU about two characters being gay. One of them died.
You should have just said, oh yeah, I was reading a book online. Yeah.
And someone
It's an
died.
unpublished work.
He died. It was so sad.
Oh, my gosh.
But yeah. And you expect them to get out in the end, though. That's the thing, because it's supposed to be, they say it, love transcends blah, blah, blah. So you think it's going to be a happy ending.
But not death. Everyone gets to die.
It's not a happy ending.
You get to die. You get to die.
That was
We all
the first
get to
time I found
die.
one without a happy ending.
But, I mean,
Jeez.
canonically, in the real show, Cass is an angel, so therefore, he died and became an angel.
I think the angels are just made in the show.
No,
He falls to
because-
Earth and becomes a human at one point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember
But then
that.
now he's an angel again, question mark?
I don't follow
I don't
the
know.
show,
Too
so
much is
I have
fucking
no
going
idea.
on.
Alright, so that was Twist and Shout, guys. Let's move on to the next fic
Oh, no.
that we have,
Oh, God.
which is, get ready for it, Alone on the Water by Mad Lori.
You two read it.
Okay.
I'm just gonna like
So-
sit
I
back.
don't want to talk about it anymore. You
Not,
talk.
I'll talk about it. So, Alone on the Water is the BBC Sherlock version of Sherlock. It's I believe it takes place within the canonical universe, and basically the summary of it is that, once again, spoilers. Sherlock has an inoperable brain tumor, and so like his brain is going to crap, and him and John Watson are not together necessarily.
They're still skirting around it.
Yeah. And so it's a very, you know from the beginning that it's going to be a sad fic.
It ends like Twist and Shout. Sort of.
Kind of. And what I actually find really interesting about this fic is that it's really well written, but what's even more surprising is that's written from the first person point of view.
Oh, really?
Whose point of view was it again? Was it John's?
It's John's point of view.
So he's just watching Sherlock deteriorate.
Yeah,
Because
and-
Sherlock's brain's the
man.
most important thing to him,
Yeah.
and now he can't use it anymore. He starts going blind, doesn't he?
yeah.
It's bad. He starts going blind, and then he
He goes
decides,
blind in one eye, yeah.
And he decides to take medication to kill himself, right? Like
Yeah.
he does suicide, and he's like, John, hold
Like
me in
they
your
plan
arms.
it all out,
Yeah.
and like
No, really.
You know, so here like the very first words of the fic, they cut me deep, and it's I sit and I hear the words I am numb, and then it lists off like inoperable, deep, intracranial pressure, terribly sorry, options, arrangements. Sherlock sits next to me, legs crossed, he is calm. How long do I have is all he asks, and like it's just ooh, it's whew.
The anniversary of when I was introduced to this fanfiction actually passed a couple days ago because one of my friends was talking about it, and this was in high school, and then she posted it onto my Facebook page, like a link to it, with me and another person tagged, and we just read it, and the next day we just talked about how much it hurt.
But yeah, so basically the entire fic is going through Sherlock trying to be normal even though he knows he's going to die, and then basically planning out his death, and John having to put up with it and like cope, and it's really depressing. But I think that's kind of why it's so iconic, is just that it's incredibly well written. And it's just sad.
It's sad. Why is it? It's the sad ones we remember the most.
I think it's because we want it to be happy, and then when it's not, it's a shock. And when it's that well written, it's hard to forget.
And the well written ones always have to be the sad ones.
Yeah.
It's the way the world works.
We always want to hurt
fanfics.
ourselves.
But yeah, so like Bailey was saying, it kind of ends like Twist and Shout, where
Are you gonna
Sherlock,
read it off? Oh,
Sherlock
read it
is
off.
he takes the medication
Are you crying?
If she starts actually reading it, I think I might.
to kill himself. Let's see.
Oh no.
Let's see. Because it doesn't actually end with him just dying. The ending is actually John like moving on, but the actual death scene is when my emotions just let loose and I just start crying. Like I can't hold on anymore. And I'm pretty sure I read it again for specifically this podcast, and I cried again. It hurt as much as the first time I read it. Ouch. Let's see. Whew, okay. Alright, here's a paragraph. And of course this is from John's point of view. We're skating near the edge. Dull horror floods me. I desperately don't want to hear it, just as desperately as I don't want to say it. Right now I am losing my best friend, and that is bad enough. I don't know if I could stand to lose more. I cannot look at the future that we're now being denied and admit that we could have had anything other than the friendship I already know. If I look down the road, which is now closed, and see something else there, always glimpsed but never reached for, never acknowledged, it might really break me for good. But this isn't about me. If he needs it, then it'll be said, and God help me. I feel his limbs loosening. John, he says, and the word is slurred. Need to see you. I shift him around in my arms until we're face to face. His eyelids are slack. He is shaking. Sherlock, just look at me. Don't try to hang on. You just look at me, okay? He does. His eyes flick over my face, like he's trying to do what I was doing earlier, and memorize me. I know that I won't be spared because he hasn't been. I kiss his lips gently. I feel the tension sag away from him and his hand on my face. I hold him close, our foreheads together again. His eyelids are flickering now. He kisses me back, straining like it's taking the last of his strength. His hands clench in my jumper and his eyes blaze as he looks at me. I want you to be the last thing I see, he rasps. I hold his gaze. I feel every second like a blade against my skin, but I hold it. I won't look away because this is sacred, and I'm long past the point of salvage anyway. He takes a few deep breaths and sags. His eyes close. He is sleeping now. It won't be long.
Wait, question. So this was within like the show universe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it? I've never seen it. So is it modern time? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So BBC Sherlock takes place within modern day London.
Okay.
And yeah. It's just, I mean, there's not much to be said about it because it's just so...
My eyes started tearing up, okay?
That gave me like a Fault in Our Stars feels, because I
But
actually
much better written?
Yeah, but like not that John Green's a terrible author. Like he's a great human being.
Yeah, he's good for the teen.
Yeah, he's good for like the teen demographic or like YA demographic, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like this, like that actually sounds like beautifully written, and that's amazing.
And it hurts.
He takes his last breath a few minutes later. Exhale, and then nothing.
So is it like is he like listening to his breathing, or is it the heart monitor?
No, he's listening to his breathing. He is holding him in his arms because he's an army doctor, so this is a very personal experience for both of them.
Oh, so Watson's a doctor already?
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah,
okay,
he's literally
He's
a
an army
doctor.
doctor.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. I just know Watson was like the sidekick, but like, I don't know.
He's an actual doctor. That's why he's called
Yeah.
Dr. John Watson.
Oh, okay, okay.
Can you even imagine that? Just thinking about real world implications of that happening to someone. That would be something you saw on the news.
Yeah. It just... I'm a little lightheaded from reading that.
Meanwhile, there's me, and I'm just like, what?
Like I'm laughing right now, but it's because I'm filled with so many emotions.
Because I'm actually in pain.
You're in a glass case of emotion.
That being said, I think we should transition to a different kind of pain because man, this podcast got dark and we need to go screaming back into the light.
All right.
Oh.
So the last fanfic that we are going to discuss today is probably the most iconic of all bad fanfiction.
Or just fanfiction ever, really.
Probably. It is called.
It gives fanfiction a bad name though. You think of that. You think of that.
Oh, hold on. It is called My Immortal. And do we know who it's by?
No, they never.
Anonymous.
It's never disclosed.
Time out, because she
think
does
we have to
have a
find out.
handle name, and because people did some deep freaking research about this fanfic, because there were conspiracy theories that this was actually a parody of Bad Fanfiction, but no one really knows.
And no one actually really knows the author because they found out who the author was.
Quote,
but
unquote.
Then it was thought that the author maybe actually wasn't that person, but it was the character, one of the characters that she inserted into the story. Remember, she's like, oh, and this is my best friend, but then she decided she hated her, so she took her out of the story for a few chapters. So some people think it's that girl instead.
Huh. Alright, so
The only thing we have pinned down is that it was a girl. It was a woman. That's the only thing anyone seems to know.
well, since we're never gonna get that straightened out,
And that's fine.
basically,
Is this
My
an AO?
Immortal
No, it's
is
not. Okay, no.
a loose fan fiction about the Harry Potter universe, and I don't know any other way to describe it other than actually reading like the first.
Could this be a crack fan fiction? You
No,
do you think this was intentional? She was trying to prove a point with this.
Since I'm the one that's like read fan fiction like the longest, like three of us, because I started like
Young.
Like I could say that this was normal in like 2000, like
No, because I have read fanfics, but never like this, but never this level. This is a level of its own of awful. Like there is bad fanfiction, and then there is My Immortal. Like it is on its own level of being because it is just that horrible. And you know, we're just gonna read you like the first chapter basically because there's no
chapter.
It's short.
It's short, man.
Is
Like
that
these
just when she's
chapters.
like, hello, my name is.
Yeah.
But let's start with the author note, which is another very iconic fan fiction thing. Is that the authors would at the beginning of their fics
Or in the middle
put in
of
an
them.
author note, or in the middle of their fics, put an
Excessively.
author note that could be like anything from like
couple times.
thank you to certain people, or it's just like, oh, by the way, blah blah blah,
Or smiley faces, like
or winky
Or the
winky.
XD face.
yeah, XD faces,
Which I still use unironically all the time.
And honestly, to really get the full experience, you should probably look up this fic on your own, but here we go. So it begins with an author note, which says, special thanks, get it, because I'm gothic, to my GF, which means girlfriend, ew, not in that way, Raven, bloody tears, 666, for helping me with the story and spelling. You rock, spelled R-O-K. Exclamation point. Justin, you're the love of my depressing life. You rock to MCR rocks.
How does that make you feel, Allison?
Anyways, so here's the first paragraph, which is basically the first chapter. Hi, my name is Ebony Darkness Dementia Ravenway, and I have long ebony black hair. And in parentheses it says, that's how I got my name. With purple streaks and red tips that reaches my mid-back and icy blue eyes like limpid tears. And a lot of people tell me I look like Amy Lee. Author note, if you don't know who she is, get the hell out of here.
That's why it was called My Immortal.
Yeah.
I'm not related to Gerard Way, but I wish I was, because he's a major fucking hottie. I'm a vampire, but my teeth are straight and white. I have pale white skin. I'm also a witch, and I go to a magic school called Hogwarts in England, where I'm in the 7th year. I'm 17. I'm a goth, in case you couldn't tell, and I wear mostly black. I love Hot Topic, and I buy all my clothes from there. For example, today I was wearing a black corset with matching lace around it and a black leather miniskirt, pink fishnets, and black combat boots. I was wearing black lipstick, white foundation, black eyeliner, and red eyeshadow. I was walking outside Hogwarts. It was snowing and raining, so there was no sun, which I was very happy about. A lot of preps stared at me. I put up my middle finger at them. And then just to finish off the chapter, here's some dialogue. "Hey, Ebony," shouted a voice. I looked up. It was ... Draco Malfoy. "What's up, Draco?" I asked. "Nothing," he said shyly. But then I heard my friend's call, and I had to go away. Author note, is it good? Please tell me, Fangs. And that's the first chapter.
But then I heard my friend's call, and I had to go away.
Hey, Ebony! What?
He said shyly. So
It was snowing and raining!
So there was no sun.
there was no sun, and I was very happy about it.
But now I understand what you mean, because reading it off, it sounds like it was written to be intentionally bad.
Yeah.
So, was it?
I mean, no one really knows, because here's the thing that I've read online about people who have tried to, like, figure out who this person is, and I think they actually found her name. Her name's, like, Tara something or other. And they referenced My Immortal against other fics that she had supposedly written, and they're like, well, yeah, maybe it could have been, like, intentionally bad, but maybe not. And so that's where the question is like, we don't really know.
And also, how many chapters does it have? Exactly. So if it's intentionally bad, why would you keep it going for so long?
It was, I think, 44 chapters long.
Because they're so short. It was like little snippets.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, for me, it's like I want to give the benefit of the doubt that maybe if it wasn't her, someone wrote it and, you know, maybe they were young and they couldn't, like, write a cohesive fictionist story. And I can understand that because it's like, I've seen fanfictions that have been that bad.
And the reason that they're bad is because it's young writers still learning how to write.
Yeah.
But in this case, we don't know. We really don't know. I mean, like, in the third chapter, her and Draco go on a date to, like, a concert to go see Simple Plan.
It was Good Charlotte.
Or, it was Good Charlotte?
It was Good Charlotte,
Charlotte.
yeah.
Oh, dang. And, like...
And then didn't they start having sex in the Forbidden Forest?
Yeah.
And then Dumbledore showed up and he said, "What are you doing, you horny simpletons?" That's what he said.
As if Dumbledore would say that, he'd just be like, oh.
Oh, no, I have it. It's fourth chapter, I think, and I was beginning to get an orgasm. We started to kiss everywhere, and my pale body became all warm, and then ... What the hell are you doing, you motherfuckers? It was ... Dumbledore.
Never mind. Oh, horny simpletons. No, McGonagall said that, or McGonagall, or McGoggles, or
Because they don't even get the names right half the time. Like, she calls Dumbledore, like, most of the time.
And then Hagrid turns out to be a Satanist.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I honestly have not
Satan
read
Hagrid.
the entire thing because...
See, I didn't read
can't.
it. I looked at the dramatic readings they have on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm planning on listening to them. So, to anyone who does not want to read it but is now extremely
Who
intrigued
wants to have a good laugh, get a couple people together.
and look up My Mortal Dramatic Reading on YouTube, and this guy called Tepogo has done an entire dramatic reading of all of the chapters.
He actually hasn't finished it,
Oh yeah, no, because it's up to chapter 31.
which is super sad.
But it is the greatest thing.
Oh, it's an adventure.
It is the room of fanfic.
One of my favorite lines is Voldemort kidnaps Harry or Draco or somebody, and Ron comes up and talks to the main character, and instead of saying, "Oh yeah, Voldemort's captured him," because that would be too easy, he says, "Voldemort has him bondage."
What?
And I want that on a t-shirt. That's the only line I really remember.
Has him
Voldemort has
bondage.
him bondage. And it's said with so much seriousness. Like, we need to save this character.
Oh, here's another good chapter. Chapter 7 is called Bring Me to Life. And the author note at the beginning is, well, okay, you guys, I'm only writing this because I got 5 God reviews. BTW, I won't write the next chapter till I get 10 God Vons. Stop flaming or I'll report you. Ebony isn't a Mary Sue, okay? Or no, it's Marie Sue. Okay, she isn't perfect. She's a Satanist! She has problems. She's depressed for God's sake.
So should we talk about what a Mary Sue is?
Yes.
Yeah, we should talk about what a Mary Sue is. What is a Mary Sue, guys?
So Mary Sue is basically, so there's Mary and Gary Stews. So
Stews. Gary Stews.
So Mary Sue is basically a character, original character that has no flaws. They're completely perfect, and they have no, like, that's just what it sounds like. They're perfect and they have no flaws. Even when they get mad, it's like, oh, you know, all of a sudden it's like
It's
valid,
for a righteous reason.
it's like a valid reason as to why they're mad or why they're upset.
And everybody falls in love with her. Everybody loves her. No
Everyone
one hates
loves
her.
them. No one hates them. She has no enemies.
And if someone does hate her, then everybody hates them because
Yeah.
that person's wrong.
And the opposite would go for like the Gary Stu, but just for a male character.
Oh, and they're super pretty.
Yeah, they're
Really
always, for
attractive.
some reason, they're always like super pretty, yet they never say as to why. And like, of course, they'll say it in like, oh yeah, they were physically pretty, but like, if you read it, they sound like a terrible person inside.
And they can do anything.
Huh.
Like, it's
I feel like
wonderful.
I'm now starting to realize like maybe some of my favorite
Oh,
characters might be Mary Sue's, but like I love them anyways and they're precious to me, so leave me alone.
I'm talking this person can go into the ocean, ride on the back of a shark and shoot seagulls out of the air.
maybe
She'd be
not that
okay.
level of Mary Sue.
And somehow save an orphan while doing it. It's oof.
Oh geez, but yeah. So if you're interested, you should definitely look into this fic because it'll take you to a different plane of existence. But we are starting to run out of time for this episode. So I thought we should close it off with, why are we doing this, guys? Why are we putting ourselves through this?
Yeah, I mean,
To be honest, when we originally brought up the idea of the podcast, it was a joke, and we were just like, we should do something called Bad Fanfiction Fridays.
Yeah, Bad Fanfiction
because we were
Fridays.
talking about fanfic in the office, and Baily decided to read some stuff, some Harry Potter fanfic to us, and we thought it was hilarious, and
Which I will read
it kind
aloud
of just
later.
snowballed from there. So why did we actually take this seriously?
I mean, for me, it's like, I don't want whoever's listening to this and whoever wants to like get into fan fictions or is like really good fan of something and they want to read something that like isn't canon in the show, but they want to know something that's like canon in their hearts. Like, I think that this is a good segue to understand like, or how to fish through fan fictions and find the good one. Cause it's like, when you're like a fanfic veteran or whatever you want to call yourself, it's hard to find good fanfiction
This is
sometimes.
true.
No matter how many filters you put it, like through the search engine, like you really still have to click in there and read through it to see, like read the first paragraph or so to see if it's good or not.
Because honestly, I find most of my fan fiction through recommendations of other people who are like, hey, this is really good, go read this. But for most part, I'm like jaded and old now. So it's just like, I don't want to have to go look for like good fanfic because most of it out there, you really have to look for it. It's not easy.
There's been a general decrease in quality, I think, since we all started reading.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find good ones. And if you can't find good ones for your pairing, sometimes, like me, then you consider it a challenge to write for it, then
Honestly,
to write your
yeah,
own.
like the other day I was like, I need this specific thing to happen within the canonical universe and it's not happening, so I need it to happen and I think I'm gonna write something for it. Just because I wanted it to happen.
It's either that or you accept that, oh yeah, I found a good fanfiction, and then you check the date and it either hasn't been updated or it's just completely canceled and it's just like, my heart's ruined. And I've run into that problem so many times.
Yeah.
And, you know, fanfiction in its own way is kind of its own subculture in a way, where it's like we have our own codes and rules, our own kind of like way of speaking.
Yeah.
Because we have like words, like we have to explain to you guys words because you're not going to understand what the heck we're talking about.
Wait till we talk about lemons.
Oh,
citrus.
Lord.
We get to talk about all the citrus words.
So next time on Bad Fanfiction Fridays, stay tuned for citrus.
Thank you for listening to Bad Fanfiction Fridays. To listen to more episodes, check us out on iTunes or any of your favorite podcast apps. As the title says, this podcast updates every Friday during the semester. Our multimedia manager is Allison Meyer. Music in this episode is from the YouTube audio library. This has been a Union Weekly production. Please follow us on Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Union Weekly.